Walls and silos are killing progress and innovation in many organizations, regardless of industry around the world. Today, we're going to be replaying the episode where we talked about how to knock down these barriers to success in this Encore episode of The Chris Hanna Show. Welcome to Season 1 of The Chris Hanna Show, where we're going all in on how to improve your impact, your productivity, and performance. Today's podcast is brought to you by Evolving Management. Isn't it about time that companies and leaders rethink and evolve their approach to managing? Visit evolvingmanagement.com for featured content, blogs, manager toolkits, coaching solutions, and more. That's evolvingmanagement.com. Welcome to another episode of The Chris Hanna Show. Today I'm going to talk to you about a problem that exists in many organizations. It's afflicting so many different industries around the world, and it's something that's a significant problem. And it is about walls and silos existing. Now, before we dive deep, I do have a confession to make. It is hard for me to admit, but ultimately, I am guilty. I am guilty of intentionally putting up barriers to collaboration and working in a silo and behind walls at times. I'll admit that I have created misalignment, and I have created an environment of working alone and encouraging members of my team at various stops throughout my career to do the same. Sometimes intentionally or even inadvertently, I've helped foster a culture of choosing not to connect. I didn't do it because of malice or ill intent or because of trying to be some Machiavellian expert. Ultimately, I did it because it was easier. I have been on the other side of helping to break down walls and silos, though, too. Admitting to being on both sides of the problem, I've found success both as a leader and trying to improve the customer experience by overcoming resistance. The problem is that silos and walls are killing innovation and progress in many organizations. I grew up in a rural community in southern Ontario, so I am very familiar with silos from a farming agricultural perspective. Business silos, just like agricultural silos, hold something essential and make it hard to get at. The reason that they exist is that functions within a business settle into a comfortable pattern of mainly operating independently from one another. They do so because departments and functions in many companies are measured differently. They're ultimately working towards different goals or different agendas, and they really have no appreciation for what other teams do, and most importantly, I would say, how they do it. You know, if you've ever experienced a rivalry between sales and marketing, or struggled with getting IT resources to support a critical initiative, you're probably facing a problem of walls and silos in your company. In one study, it was noted that conflicts between these types of groups are often not due to interpersonal issues, but they're tied to how frequent information is shared and a lack of effective processes. The reason that many organizations struggle with overcoming walls and silos is because they forget that everything starts and ends with the customer. Far too often, people lose focus on the end customer as the reason for what they do. Therefore, breaking down walls and silos is about reminding everyone why the organization exists. And ultimately, that is to support customers, the people who pay everyone's salary. But often people forget that there are multiple types of customers. There's both internal and external customers. There are many organizations out there who claim to be customer-centric, but considering how often internal customers are neglected, it doesn't seem to be overly customer-centric within many companies. But I argue that the genuinely customer-centric organizations don't just put their customers first. They put their employees first in creating a culture that communicates and works well together. Now, many organizations, they will lean towards becoming siloed. It seems to be natural for people just to form tribes and establish territories, so leaders need to come together to advocate for better collaboration, because working together ultimately accomplishes more than going solo. Lots of work has actually been written about overcoming walls and silos. In one study, Harvard Business Review asked a question to managers, salespeople, engineers, and consultants around the world, inquiring about which relationships get prioritized in your day-to-day job. The answer was always the same: vertical relationships. Who reports to who? Now, they did flip this question around, and they asked, what is the most important relationship for creating value for customers? Of course, the answer switched to horizontal relationships, the connections between departments, functions, teams, and offices. It's interesting. People realize that the relationships across the organization are important, but they don't prioritize those relationships. I'm a big fan of Star Trek, and my favorite quote is from Star Trek 2, where in The Wrath of Khan, Captain Kirk says, "I don't believe in the no-win scenario." Now, whenever I hear people say something that isn't possible, it fires me up to take that challenge on and overcome. With this in mind, I have developed a system to overcome barriers and walls that are impeding success in organizations. There are key tactics that help improve alignment. Armed with this strategy, I know that success is possible with knocking down these walls and silos. I'll say up front, though, it's not going to be easy, and it's going to require a lot of work to create long-lasting change. There will be naysayers that you're going to encounter, but claiming that it's impossible to be successful. But remember, I don't believe in the no-win scenario, and neither should you. So we all must make a conscious effort to help our people meet and network with colleagues, both internally and externally. So I always say that key to creating a culture of knocking down barriers to success like walls and silos is that everybody should aim to have at least one ally per department or team that can help you. Building a group of allies is about finding common ground and interests because you know each other. Encourage members of your team to do the same. At every place I've worked, I have done this. It helps to have someone in your corner on every team. Even if you hardly interact or cross paths initiative-wise, ensuring you and your team have allies who can advocate for your interests is key. When I coach teams or members of my staff to connect with others, I always ask that they focus on getting to know the other person. Don't go into meetings asking for something that you want without first ensuring you have a relationship with that person. So if you want to help improve collaboration, you want to get to know the people you work with. So I suggest you ask the following questions. Number 1, who are your customers, both internal and external? 2, what do you do for your customers? And 3, how is your performance measured? So when you start to understand more about who you're working with and building those relationships by learning the answers to these questions, you can actually build a tremendous relationship that you can continue to leverage. The next key is to make sure that you have a clear sense of who's responsible for what when it comes to certain roles and responsibilities with the organization. What we often find is that the handoff between teams is where a lot of breakdowns happen, as people are very often unsure of who's supposed to do what in critical processes or communications. So I say that people should map out roles and responsibilities together and refine improvements along the way. As a leader, it's essential to know what you need to focus on and what you need to prioritize, but also other team members need to know how to do the same. Don't get stuck in the weeds. Leaders are supposed to work on the business, not just in the business. So a key tool to help with setting up a level of shared responsibility across a team is to implement a RACI matrix. So those who are not familiar with the RACI model or the RACI matrix need to remember these 4 key words: responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. Ultimately, with stakeholders, you are wanting to determine who's responsible for certain tasks. Ultimately, who does the work. It's also important to note who's accountable. Who's the person who delegates the work, signing off on what's delivered? Third, who's consulted as part of a critical process or communication? Who are the subject matter experts that need to be sought for their opinions? And lastly, who's informed? Who are the people who need to be kept up to date on the progress? It's important to define together, alongside stakeholders, any key or shared processes and communications. One mistake I've seen people make over the years is creating a RACI matrix by themselves. It's not going to be effective, and oftentimes it's going to fail to be used. So when you create a RACI matrix together with all key stakeholders, that can be incredibly powerful when used correctly. The one thing that a lot of people talk about too is that they don't have time to connect with other leaders. Some people claim that they don't have enough of an opportunity to understand what everyone else does or understand what they do. But becoming more aligned requires a time investment. So you need to listen, learn, and share. And you need to do that by investing time unlocking the power of sync sessions. Regularly connect with peers discussing shared objectives, any kind of obstacles in their way, and items that are on each other's roadmap. These sessions require a certain level of prioritization and deserve a dedicated time slot. But how frequently you meet with each other is up to you. You got to find the right cadence that kind of makes sense depending on the two teams and the leaders and what their functions are and how much they intersect. But you can use a sync session to really understand each other and what they're going through. If you think about from the customer experience side of things, there's a lot of talk about empathy. But how do we apply empathy to our internal relationships? So in a sync session, don't be afraid to share information about what it's like to work with one another. I've often heard people express things in these sessions like, I had no idea you guys do that, or no wonder our requests drive you crazy. The goal is to increase respect across departments and leaders so that you can build a more significant commitment to collective success. It's also important to remember that organizations are drowning in data. A lot of companies and teams and leaders are hungry for data and analytics. So one of the best gifts that a team can offer is data and information. So teams need to remember to leverage data to facilitate change and ongoing continuous improvement across groups. Take insights and feed that back into the business, improving products, processes, and services. The easier that teams can share data across partners, the more they're going to encourage members of the team to do the same. It's also important that organizations promote culture of shadowing one another. Team members and leaders need to spend time with each other to see what their world is all about. So provide an opportunity for leaders to shadow people directly, arrange for overview sessions, encourage other leaders to participate as well. I'm a big fan of also having start, stop, continue sessions on specific topics where organizations can pull in team members that are cross-functional to learn about critical processes and what's working and what's not working. You want to use any of these sessions as a way to hold up a mirror to the organization to see itself through another perspective. There also could be opportunities to create a job shadowing strategy or a rotation that gives team members exposure to other parts of the business. Now, nothing undermines collaboration more than one leader taking credit for every initiative that goes well. There are unsung heroes in every organization helping you or the team achieve objectives. So it's important to acknowledge contributions, both big and small. In some of the teams that I've led, we've established a Supporting Stars program. Now, with this program, we have publicly recognized people who, in different areas of the company who have helped our team's efforts. Doing so solidifies our relationship while also strengthening the bond the next time that we need to work together. The last key to successfully knocking down walls and silos is to encourage win-win scenarios. Like any negotiation, the focus or end goal needs to be about everyone winning. Whenever someone wins and the other person loses, the less likely that those who lose will want to participate the next time around. So ask this one question to fellow leaders. What do we need from each other to succeed? This question is about supporting one another's work going forward, coming up with agreements, timelines, maybe asking for advance notice of significant changes that might be applicable. To make strong connections across teams, there needs to be an integrated planning process, whether it's shared objectives, joint business processes, determining which projects or resources overlap. It's vital that leaders align on what success looks like for everyone involved. Win-win has to be the goal. But it's important to remember there are some lessons to be learned in trying to knock down walls and silos. It does take a lot of time and effort. Guaranteed, you're going to run into issues that might hinder your progress. There are times when it's not worth pushing your agenda, or it's not the right time. Sometimes you need to take a loss and find a more opportune time to move forward. It's kind of like in poker. You need to lose a hand to ultimately win the game, because not every battle is worth fighting. Sometimes it's best to let it burn instead of sounding like the person who cried wolf when you experience resistance. Some people might come into their own in seeing what's right, so you got to pick and choose your spots, or it can seem very one-sided. It just can't be about your needs. You only have so much time, energy, and social capital to spend. I always say it's kind of like trying to get candy that's stuck in a vending machine. Sometimes you need to hit a problem from multiple angles. Different approaches can make a world of difference. Once you've successfully knocked down walls and silos, don't be surprised if you find that they've eventually built themselves back up. If you don't continually work on trying to be more collaborative in your organization and building strong relationships and connections, you are going to fail. You got to keep working at it. It's essential to recognize that although you can't do it alone. To scale your efforts, you need to involve others on your team and others cross-functionally in your pursuit of improving communication and connections. New hires are always going to join teams and organizations, so to stand out and make their mark, new hires sometimes unintentionally will hoard resources because they're afraid of the unknown. They don't understand how the organization works. So help others be successful from day one and having them shadow and encourage you and your team. Have them explain and understand how they connect to the customer experience both internally and externally. Lastly, it's important to remember that leading by example is critical. Someone needs to lead the charge to knock down walls and silos in organizations, and it might as well be you. As I've said before, your role is to work on the business, not just in the business, so help steer the strategy through, but make it belong to everyone. Be accountable for achieving results with having your best people working on it, inviting everyone to act and create customer-centric decisions. By strengthening connections, communication, walls and silos can come down, improving both the employee and the customer experience. You've been listening to The Chris Hanna Show. To have me speak at your next event, or for additional solutions to help you achieve more than you thought possible, visit chrishanna.ca today. For other solutions and resources designed to help companies and leaders rethink and evolve their approach to managing, be sure to check out evolvingmanagement.com. Lastly, please remember to subscribe and share to receive the latest episodes wherever you listen to your podcast. We look forward to connecting with you again soon for another episode of The Chris Hanna Show.